In my last video I've shown you how I turned these epic walnut slabs into this nice tabletop. That was actually so much fun and I'm very happy and excited about the tabletop. Now, as we all know, wood moves, and to tackle that and to let the tabletop stay flat over time while still allowing the wood to contract and expand with the seasons, we have to do something about it. And the solution is called a sliding dovetail. Now, as you might know, a standard sliding dovetail is a dovetail shaped piece that goes into a dovetail shaped rabbet dado. Actually, I think it's called dado, when you can push it in and then the wood can still freely move along its width and it stays flat because of the sliding dovetail. Now, one problem or one thing with the sliding dovetail made this way is the fact that when you have longer sliding dovetails, it's actually pretty hard to get them in. I've made a headboard for a bed, and it was just a pain, as you can see here. Now, one solution to solve this is to make the sliding dovetail tapered. But you still would see on one side at least, or on both sides, the sliding dovetail in the edge of your tabletop. And I don't want this for this part. Here I want to have a sliding dovetail that is not visible on both sides. So it stops before the edge of the tabletop. And for that I've seen a pretty cool video from Dominic Ricker. He makes great videos, by the way, and you should definitely give him a follow even if you don't speak German. He makes some videos where he doesn't speak at all. It's just a pleasure to watch. And I will link you his personal account down in the description below. Now, I will use this process for the very first time so you can follow me along as I hopefully make it work. And let's get you closer to see what tools we'll be using for this. Okay, I will be using the 30mm bushing for my router, and of course I will use a dovetail bit. Basically the dovetail bit has to be able to fit into the bushing or through the bushing, and then I will use a straight bit. And the straight bit, the diameter has to be smaller than the narrow part of your dovetail bit. This will make it way easier with the template I will show you now. To make the Dovetail Dado, I made this super duper fancy plywood jig, just pocket hole together, and which I can clamp to my tabletop here. Now the bushing will ride against the template and therefore make a dado that is the same size every time I do this. Of course, a more commercially available template like the MFS from Festool is a great choice for that. In my case here, the MFS is a little bit too short because I need more than 700mm. After clamping the template to my tabletop, I will first use the straight bit to clear out most of the waste, then change the bit to my dovetail bit and make the dovetail shaped part of the cut. Now, important when you do the dovetail shaped part of the cut is that you don't plunge in at the edge. You plunge in at the center and then go to the edge, because here on the dovetail shaped part at the front it's wider, and if you plunge in from the side you will just end up with a normal dado and not a dovetail shaped dado. I think, yeah, this is clear and I hope you got it. Now, as the depth of my cut, I will choose a third of my tabletop thickness. My tabletop is around 45mm thick, so I will go for 15mm. Now, to have a little bit of a wiggle room, or let's call it just a safety net, I will make it 2/10 deeper than 15mm, because later on the router table we will use 15mm straight, and then we have 2/10 as a little safety net. Now, of course, when I set my router with the bushing here, I have to zero my bit on the tabletop and not on the base of the router or the base of the bushing. Now 15 from here. Now you can see something, but I don't. Oops. like that. All right, then we'll set my stop, and we are good to go. Checking to see if the template sits square on the tabletop. It does. All right, it's secured, and now let's make some sawdust. Now we have a hole. My dovetail bit is chucked into the router, and now I can simply lower my router until the bit hits the bottom of the dado, like that, and then cut the dovetail part. Okay, now we can remove the template and see what we got. Okay, sweet. That looks pretty nice. I will break the edges here with sandpaper so I won't hurt myself and I won't catch on it later on. My dovetail bit is chucked into my router, and now I will set the height of the bit to 1/10 shy of 15 millimeters. That way I can ensure that this part of the sliding dovetail is not hitting the bottom of the other one and it won't fit, and actually the shoulder here will be nice, crisp and closed. For my fence, I want it to be flush with the most bottom part of the bit. So therefore I use my thinnest ruler and get it in place. Now I've cut away these notches at the bandsaw so the dovetails will fit in here. And as you can see here, they overhang the dado, and it's basically a blind sliding dovetail, or half blind, or I don't know how you want to call it. Just like that. Now the only thing left is the locking piece in the center that will actually create the pressure. Therefore I have these strips, and I will simply plane them down until they fit nicely. Not quite there yet. All right, now that's perfect. Yeah, great. Alright, I gave it a little shape at the bandsaw, a little taper here so it won't look so clunky and boring. Now, before we will glue this in, I have to put wax down here at the bottom of the dado. Because if I will not do it, the glue here will stick on to the tabletop, and basically the sliding dovetail is glued to the tabletop, and then the tabletop cannot contract and expand freely. Alright, let's don't be greedy here. That should be plenty. Okay, glue on both sides of the centerpiece. Not too much, we don't want to make a mess here. Part 1, part 2, the third and final piece. I want to make sure they are flush here as well. Whew. Everything is clamped up, and now I will let it dry overnight. After touching them up with a little bit of sandpaper, chamfering them and giving them some finish, they look like this. Not too shabby, right? And I really like the technique because now fitting the sliding dovetail is pretty much down to planing the center strip down to the final thickness, and that I can do on my planer very exactly 10th by 10th, and I can just fit them perfectly. I will use this technique in future projects. I really liked how they turned out, and here on the front and in the back they are not visible in the edge. If you like what you've seen, hit that subscribe button and you won't miss the other videos about the desk, because now it's just a tabletop. We need the base and the cabinet on the top, and I will link you the other videos in a playlist. Now, the best way to support what I do is go to my store, pick up a Kumiko starter kit or a shooting board. That really makes my day. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.